We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes beyond the Walking Dead universe. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by CosmoMom09, Rachel Burt, Charity, aka Blazy Gardner, and Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. And we're here to discuss our thoughts on second watch of The Last of Us's second episode titled Infection. Now, why are we here again? Well, the reason is because we had this idea in our head to go live right after the episode airs to give you our impressions. Well, lo and behold, it seems to be that once we go live, we pretty much have it down right. However, case in point, if you go to our blog.squawkingdead.com and look up the blog we did on the first episode, we kind of filled in some of the blanks that we missed or we didn't discuss or didn't get into a little enough in the blog for that episode. Now that blog is going to be in the new blog that goes back to the old blog. Anyway, it has some reference materials of things like the actor who plays Marlene was in the video games as well as the series. Articles detailing why they didn't decide to make spores the infection mechanism, going into the masks, why the masks are important. Also, at the end of this episode, Infected, in the behind the scenes for that episode, they discussed it also a little bit further, more on the line of, well, we didn't want to make the spores the mechanism for infection because anything could be a spore. Spores are everywhere. They're invisible. You can't really see them. So that's why they invented the mycelial network. But that was the main reason why they expanded on the mycelial network in this episode. We have CosmoM09, Rachel Burt. I wanted to give you the floor to give us your thoughts on these last two episodes.
Hey guys, glad I could finally make it. I've been busy girl, doing lots of stuff and things. Don't worry about it, Lori. There's only been 2 episodes, so I can't really... I don't know. It's weird not knowing anything about this show because I went into The Walking Dead and I'm like, I've at least seen zombie movies and shows before. I had some sort of reference. This is completely, totally new. I went into it actually hoping that it would suck. If I'm being honest, I really wanted it to be terrible.
Why? I'm really curious because part of me, that's why I decided to do this live right after the episodes, because I wasn't sure if we were going to come back into the studio and discuss it further. I thought we might just keep on going live, but why do you say that? Because
I really looked forward to spending our entire recording sessions just tearing it apart and being, what the fuck this, and how could this happen, and this is so stupid, and
like other podcasts.
I don't listen to other podcasts, honestly.
Or like Sharon D. I don't know. Well, you're our resident shitter.
Not always.
Things. No, but like usually.
Only when it's warranted, not just all the time. If you're talking about Fear Season 7, that was warranted.
Well, listen,
Fair.
When you punch something long enough, it makes an impact.
It's 4, 5, and 6. Season 5 and 6, I'm all up in it. But Season 7 was garbage. I'm sorry. I'm gonna tell it like it is.
Listen, it seems like we're all traumatized, but in our own special way.
The tower. Since you said that, I do have a small complaint about the episode.
Oh.
It's not even just this show. This is something that all shows do, and I understand it's a tension-building technique. When you're getting ready to go into a building with monsters in it, and you have a 14-year-old girl who does not know about these monsters, instead of just telling her to be silent, why don't you tell her why she needs to be silent? Not just, hey, we're just going to be silent. No information, nothing about what to expect. No, hey, these guys can't see you, but they can hear you. You got to be silent. Let's just go up here and be quiet. Give people information they need. And I get it. It's a tension building, but it's so stupid. Why wouldn't you give this information to this kid?
I get it. In a realistic level, it doesn't make sense. But something I learned from my friend Chris, who I did this collaboration with just before New Year's. He does a beer show. We do a zombie show covering zombie stuff. We did a zombie beer based themed taste test of these 3 different beers. He told me something that was very important, and because he's from the film making world, and he says, show, don't tell. What they wanted to do was show you, not tell you. But you're right.
I said, I get,
but you're right.
I get the point of it, but it's so frustrating. That is the only complaint I have about it. Everything else I fucking love. It's not even bad. It's just annoying.
To fill that in a little bit, though, I do feel like even they don't know 100% how these things work necessarily. They know the mycelial network.
They know that they can't see, though. At the very least, they could have told her, shut your face, because They can't see you, but they can hear you, bitch. That
Right,
could have been enough.
right.
Having a teenager, I can tell you that they don't. When you say be quiet, they're going to be louder.
But why? But why?
Exactly.
And she
Yeah.
was ish. And also, like, throughout the episode, she's clearly not, definitely should not be doing half the stuff she's doing to stay alive. Like, ooh,
Going
room
into a
service,
mall.
but like, stop
Yeah,
messing
but I
around. There
love
might be a
that-
clicker nearby.
But I love that though.
No,
like,
I do too.
That was a kid being a kid and enjoying her freedom and stuff.
Yeah.
But as adults, Tess and Joel should know better than to keep important information on a journey. I
Yeah.
can't see them taking some adult in there and being just be quiet.
Is that even enough for an adult? Right.
Especially after that scene at the beginning, because Tess says, I'm going to talk to you like an adult now.
Right.
Right.
Well, maybe they were too adult and not enough child. But to kind of give you a little bit more validation for my comments is that when they see the guy messed up like that, even they're like, what could have caused that?
It was the guy that was, because I think they knew that guy was up there. Apparently they've had run-ins with him before.
The
Because
guy
as soon
on
as
the ground level?
no, the clicker that was upstairs that
Oh, okay.
they ran into, they knew he was there because as soon as they started hearing noises, they were like, oh, he's
Oh, no. I meant the mutilated body they found.
right.
And,
But what I'm saying is when they found that body, I feel like, no, they were like, no, this was a clicker.
so they
clicker
were
did
like in
this.
denial. They're like, no, maybe he came in from the outside. It couldn't be a clicker.
Right.
We never
Right.
see those. Maybe not ever. It
I
just
think it was
felt
more
like,
like desperation. I really don't want to deal with this. This is the worst.
Right.
So maybe it's not that bad.
and
Yeah.
maybe what we should get out of this is that with Tess's knees going up 10 flights of floors, and they're
I love
above
that line.
right. They're above a certain age, and they are getting a little too old for this shit. To quote, not Riggs, who's the
Murtaugh.
other guy from
Danny.
Murtaugh from Lethal
Mhm.
Weapon. That is probably something we should keep in mind as well. This is going to be an important theme: age, and age versus youth too. There's something to talk about there.
On that note, I would like to point out something that I noticed on second watch. When we open on Ellie, she's curled up in the grass, sleeping like a little baby.
In the fetal position.
By the end of the episode, she's back in the grass again. She's still framed by foliage and flowers and grass, but this time she's standing. She's grown up. She's not the baby that she was at the beginning. And I really loved that framing.
That's why I love this show. I didn't think about
It
that.
also made seeing her in the flowers made me think of Nick laying in the blue bonnets. First thing,
Nick Clark from Fear the Walking Dead. In his final episode, Frank Delane. Oh, let's go back to Rachel. You saying that it's something completely we don't know. One of the things that we'd said in previous live streams, they've made it though so that for the most part, because spores aren't the transmission mechanism and it scratches and bites, well, they kind of brought it back to like how the Walking Dead zombies sort of infect other people. I just thought that was kind of interesting though.
The tiniest little scratch.
Well, my feeling, I guess, would be because I know when the little shuffling boy came in the first episode, all he had was a tiny little cut on his leg. It didn't even look like a bite or anything. It just like she was like, "Where'd you get this?" It was a little cut. If they break your skin in any way, they can infect you with spores. Probably
With those mycelial strands, apparently, is what it's looking like at this point.
the bean sprouts.
The fucking
Yeah.
bean
Yes.
sprouts. That was disgusting.
What about it is disgusting? Because it's the hair thing.
That was one part that I kind of freaked out a little bit. I did freak out a little bit when Tess did her thing. And the thing walks up and I'm like, no, ew, it was disgusting. Why would you let him do? Why are you just, bleh? And then and her mouth was open and she's just like, take, bleh. It was disgusting. Why
gross.
did she just stand there and fucking take that? Why wouldn't she like shove him away? Why didn't she pick up a grenade? She could have done literally 1,000 things besides swallowing his fucking bean sprouts. It was disgusting.
She was already infected and it was already controlling her because as soon as it locked eyes on her, she was losing all of her
But
own
she
autonomy.
knew enough to keep flipping the lighter.
Right, but I feel that it just froze her in place. Dave, you were talking about in the hallway when Ellie grabbed her shoulder and then the other lady grabbed her shoulder too. Maybe it's because since she's infected, she's part of the mycelial chain now, and they are already controlling her movements. And it starts with your face and your head.
And they're
Then it
real
moves to your
romantic.
arms and your body. And then it moves to your legs. It's already taken over this part of her body.
It's in
She
the brain.
can't stop it.
Essentially.
But her hand, it's not moved to the part of her arms yet. Because remember on the chart, it tells you what face was 2-3 hours, thorax and arms were 4 or 5 hours, and then within 24 hours it was your legs. It's already taken this part of her, and now she still has the functionality of her arms because it hasn't moved to that part of her yet. She can still flick the lighter and have that much autonomy, but the majority of the autonomy of her is taken over already.
When I saw that chart, I took it as if you get hit in these places, if you get bit or scratched in these places, that's how much time you have before you are dead.
Oh.
That's how I read that chart.
I thought
Well,
it was how
also-
symptoms displayed. But to be fair, I only saw it for a split second. So
It is in the blog, though.
So they're a real romantic bread.
yes.
Kiss each other.
Very
All right.
romantic.
So romantic. Take my bean sprouts, baby.
I found out a little behind the scenes stuff about that.
Are you going to
scene.
tell us that that's her husband and they kissed on set?
No.
Well, let me just read the thing. It's time to full infection. Rachel, you
Oh,
are
so
partial.
Rachel's right.
You are right.
Okay.
If infecting
Okay.
wound is located on neck, face, head, 5 to 15 minutes. Torso, arm, shoulder, hand, 2 to 8 hours. Leg or foot, 12 to 24 hours. You are right, Rachel. Vindicated.
Wow, that doesn't happen often.
No.
I'm marking this one down in the calendar. I'm
All
never
right.
right.
Well, all right. It's marking it down.
This
Rachel gets it
day.
right. in the year of our Lord, 2023.
So I adjust my theory a
Not
little bit.
mine, but anyway.
It still hasn't taken over complete autonomy. She can't pull away from it, but she still has a little bit of her own control.
It is startling to see her frozen in fear because from the limited information we have, we do not know her to be a scared person.
When she sent Joel and Ellie away, there was just a moment after they left where she just kind of stopped, and you could just see it hit her that she was absolutely completely alone. There was no backup for her. There was nobody going to do anything with her. Nobody was going to come save her. She was completely and totally alone. I'm wondering if that also factored into her just kind of giving up when it came at her.
I can see all that. I wanted to go a different way just to see if this makes a difference, given the fact that they find that body at the bottom of the stairs, not the bottom of the stairs, in the other room around the corner in the Bostonian, which doesn't exist according to Seth LaRusso. Thanks, Seth, I guess. Don't you know it's the Bostonian? It's in Boston. That doesn't exist. I'm like, I'll take your word for it, Bostonian. Anyway, given the fact that they find this body all mutilated, I just don't think she wanted to take the chance of making any sudden movements that would make her not accomplish this mission, her last mission. I think that's why she overall submits. It's like taming a wild animal. It's like, if I can just tame it long enough, flick the lighter, and then light the thing up, and then I don't have to worry about anything. But if I make sudden movements, it's all for nothing. Me sacrificing myself is all for nothing.
She could have pursed her lips. She went full inch.
Her own mycelials were trying to reach out to his
Well,
mycelials.
that's what's making me think that it was already controlling her, because that's the whole point of these, right?
Yeah.
It takes over the
I can
human
agree with
body
that.
and controls it.
Yeah.
If she's already being controlled by it, then it is
Or
commanding her
connected.
to stay there in one spot and not move. So she
Or at
can't,
the
she
very
just
least
couldn't-
connected, right? In some sort of way that we can't explain. And it could
Okay.
be, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
We can all still at least agree that it was disgusting. Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure, dude.
I like bean sprouts.
Same thing with Nana Adler. Something about hair in mouths is just so gross. Anywhere else, you're like, okay, it's hair's coming out of my arms. Clearly, it's but, like,
Anything
your
coming out of your mouth that doesn't belong in your mouth is pretty gross. Because haven't you ever watched movies where there's dead people on the beach and there's crabs and stuff crawling out of their mouth? That's just as gross.
I think it's because
Yeah, it's awesome.
we have most of our senses are in our mouth because of taste. When something comes out of what appears to be a mouth, you have this intense like, I eat things every day. I know what that
appears to be a
I'm
mouth.
Right. And we've all had hair in our mouths for some reason. You're women, I guess. No, but no,
Now I'm
I'm
picturing
not.
other things. Now I'm picturing other things that appear to be a mouth.
I'm not kidding about appears to be a mouth. If something looks like a mouth, your mouth automatically tries to imagine what that might be like with that thing in it. Anyway,
Ooh, this
But
went
it's
off
tr-
the
it-
rails so
but
Anyway.
so your reaction is emblematic of what I'm saying. Actually,
It's
maybe.
really what
Yes.
you're saying that's causing this face. Anyway,
well then
So-
I'm very proud of
Appears
myself.
to be a mouth.
And sorry, I'm sorry.
Neil Druckmann is co-creator of the series, and he did come out and say, I found it in an article on CNET in the initial reaction to this episode that's different. It's soldiers that come. It's from Fedra
Right.
and kill tests, the zombies or infected or whatever the heck we're calling them. The co-creators decided that wouldn't make any sense for soldiers to come so far out into the quarantine or out of the quarantine zone that would be too dangerous.
The QZ.
And also the fact is that, well, they're probably going to die anyway. I don't really need to waste the manpower on it. And then they wanted to showcase with this weird kiss that the infected do not need to be violent. It's not a prerequisite that they be violent. It's only when you're fighting back that they become violent. If you're preventing them from spreading the parasite
that they want to spread,
that's when they become violent. Running away from them would create violence.
So basically what I was thinking, kind of like an animal.
I thought it was interesting to give that context to it, because I really was like, why did they do it that way? That was one, it was weird. It's like cool because it was gross, and so I like that there was a meaning behind it instead of it just being gross to be gross. Also, I've been meaning to say this since we started watching this show, but there was no way that HBO was going to let another zombie show go. They passed up Walking Dead.
After passing up on The Walking Dead. Yeah.
This was pitched and they're like, yes.
Maybe there's something. Maybe they're onto something.
We're going to come in years later.
A decade and change.
They had to dip their toes in with because they do have a zombie show. It's called Game of Thrones. There's zombies on Game of Thrones.
That's true.
Oh, fair.
Boring
it's only
zombies.
half.
Just kidding.
Half the show.
Not even half, right? It's maybe a solid third.
Dip their toe in the zombie water.
I think there's something to this.
Just like Ellie did. Dipped her toes in the zombie water.
This is so gross.
Walking
That
Dead
was
has tainted
one of my
me
favorite
so
parts.
much that all I could think was, why would you get in the water? There's always something under the water. And then I was like, wait. This is fungus. It's not going to be fully submerged.
Algae.
That's not a thing. It's going to be in a damp, cold area, but it's not going to be straight up in water.
Right. It still needs air, I guess. I don't know how. I really need to look up how fungus works.
I
Mostly.
did finally read the article about would this be possible
As a thing, right?
This
That
infection.
one you mentioned
No, thank
in
you.
the first episode, was it?
I
Or the
did,
second
yeah,
one?
I did. It's also
Okay.
from CNET, so apparently they're just obsessed with writing about The Last of Us right now.
The science of The Last of Us. I did want to drop a pin on something that was brought up in the last episode and on this episode, and to give credit to Hanako from Fandom Hybrid, who I listened to the first episode coverage of theirs. I think it was either today or yesterday. Something that they mentioned was in this episode was that the outbreak happened in a flour and grain factory in Jakarta. Hanako had said that it's possible that Joel and the Millers were spared because they were trying to go gluten-free. Atkins, that's right.
Atkins!
So not going with grains and flours maybe help them to survive this.
You know what did help? Not getting the cake.
There you go.
Yes.
Because he was supposed to pick up the cake.
We have the transmission mechanism for the most part. The thing that helped, it's not space spores.
Yes,
Like in-
substrate.
What? Sorry?
Substrate. That's what she says. The doctor,
Oh,
Ratna?
Ibu Ratna?
Ibu is not a first name, I found out.
No, it's mother. Ibu's mother.
I thought it was strange that he kept saying first and last name. I'm glad you said that.
It's considered like an honorable title.
In
Okay.
Eastern cultures. I was going to say that actually. And Ibu Ratna is obviously, like you said, an honorific title. Her name is actually Ratna Pertiwi, her full
Okay.
name. I found this out from the wiki. Now, Ibu Ratna Pertiwi means mother of pearl, and the Pertiwi part is motherland. I thought that was kind of cool. And typically mother of pearl is associated strongly with symbolism of motherly protection and soothing. Having that against what she has to say, she can't be that person or that symbol of soothing and protection.
Yeah,
Was
like the
heartbreaking.
world was looking to their mom for comfort, and she was like,
There is no hope.
Sorry.
oof, that is tough.
And this, just having the naked body on the slab, vulnerable, exposed for all, and gratuitously exposed. This is us. Vulnerable. There is no protection. It's in our face. You know how usually they'll show a nude body on any given television show? They'll show it for a couple seconds and be like, okay, that's enough. No, they're like, here's the boob. Here's more boob. She's exposed. You can't get away from it. But like,
I was very
but you get
shocked,
what I
and then I
mean.
was like, oh yeah, HBO.
right.
They're showing
I thought
us on cable television.
I thought the same thing, actually. I was like, oh yeah, HBO, right.
That was
But
my
it's
exact reaction. I went,
Showtime,
"Whoa."
right?
Oh, yeah.
This isn't Cinemax. Anyway,
When he was like, what do we do? And I thought she was going to say pray, and it was bomb. That was not what I expected to come out of her mouth.
Yeah. No,
Just
not
bomb
at
the
all.
city, bomb
Well, it was
everybody.
smart
She
though.
also had-
She's like,
She also had pearl
kill it
earrings
at the
too,
source.
by the way.
Just trying.
But from the jump, she was terrified. I am out of, as much of an expert as I am, this is beyond me.
Well, because what they were talking about is correct. Cordyceps cannot transfer to humans currently. Actually,
Right.
most fungus can't infect humans.
It's inhospitable for humans.
Now, there's a couple of exceptions to that rule. Thrush
Right.
is a type of fungus that can transfer to humans. And in the CNET article that talks about, is this possible? Their answer is improbable, but not entirely out of possibility. And the reasoning behind that is because there's thoughts that if the world continues to get warmer, theoretically, fungus would adapt to living in warmer temperatures. And then
Right.
we as humans would be at risk for fungal
But
infections.
there's also the possibility that if the fungus evolves and adapts, so will the humans, to still be inhospitable to the fungus.
They went into detail on 3 different reasons why we're inhospitable body regulation of our temperature. One is our natural immune system. That's the other thing, is like
We'll
it
go
makes it
after it.
extremely unlikely. I cannot remember off the top of my head what the third one was.
We can expand on it in the blog, I suppose, a little bit. But they could read the article in the blog too.
I just thought it was interesting to see that this was based in science, this whole concept. And it actually comes from the David Attenborough documentary. What is it, Planet Earth, BBC Planet Earth? There is an episode that goes through parasites and it talks about cordyceps. And that's where the basis for the video game came from.
Something in my notes about the actual cordyceps is that they're actually harvested by Chinese Eastern healing physicians as sort of remedies, but they're not proven to work. But I'm just trying to imagine them gathering all those ants that have the fungus growing out of their heads and eating them from the inside out. And then you actually putting it in your mouth as a healing remedy. Goes along the lines of the hair thing in the mouth. just one more log in the fire of grossness.
Well, bam, there you are. Now we have a zombie infection. Like
Right.
worldwide pandemic.
Now
Just
we
from
know
that.
where it's going to start. Thanks. Again. Whoops.
Whoopsie.
I would like to talk about how much the clickers look and sound like chickens. The way they hold their arms and their bodies, even the clicking sounds like some crazy ass clucking. I don't know if there's a connection somewhere between barnyard animals such as chickens and other fowl and cordyceps, but I'm sorry. I just thought they were like chickens.
And the fungus on their faces looks like an insane version of like the little thingy and the thing.
The waddle.
The thing.
I mean, like
Like the way they hold their arms out sideways and the way they move and jerk and that sounds. I had chickens. That's what they sound like.
Wow. When you said chicken, that's what most people referred to the people with the, I guess the clickers, how their appearance looks like. It just looks like split open hanging raw chicken. That's what it's like the common thing that I've been seeing on TikTok. Oh yeah, look, it's chicken in the wild. It's kind of gross, but now I'm just imagining a clicker and with all its raw chicken meat hanging from its face. It's just not
Right?
appetizing. Very gross.
Yeah. Ew.
Especially the fact that, and it's worth mentioning again, that it takes one headshot, one and done doesn't seem like it's enough. Good on you,
That's
Last of Us. with
It's
your
not
9
enough in
fuel.
the game either.
When they shoot them in the head, you can see the mushroom fungus flying out,
Just
like
like the
chunks
bit.
of it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Remember in Creepshow when Stephen King shot himself in the head after he touched the meteor and he turned into the big
Oh yeah,
pile
yeah,
of plant?
yeah.
And then he shot himself in the head and dirt flew out?
Yeah.
That was what this reminded me of.
No, wow. Well, is this the new or the old Creep Show? Sorry.
The
Old
Oh,
Creepshow.
Okay.
Does it have to be a brain death, or can
I
they
think
shoot
it's
it like?
easier.
Burning apparently works because they burn them
Oh, yeah.
too.
I mean, eventually that would kill the
Does
brain.
it eventually turn them into just plant matter? In which case they would burn just like dead plants.
We saw in the beginning of this second episode, the person is dead to a gunshot wound in the head, which killed the body. It killed the host,
Right, but the
but it
fungus
did
lives
not
on.
kill the fungus at all.
Because
Which
the
adds
fungus is
another
still
layer.
moving when-
Burning is really the only way you'd be able to get rid of it, I would imagine.
Right. Well, and even then, you'd have to probably burn it a lot, right? Whatever living flesh is left over, it's going to feed on. It's all terrifying.
You kill the
Yeah.
clicker. What you've done is take the danger of the fungus chasing you down.
Right.
at
Yes.
that particular moment. But if you walk over there and stick your face to it, you're still fucked.
Not the environmental danger, right? Which actually dovetails very nicely to what I noticed. And it's small, but like you said, Ellie wake up in the patchy, mossy growth inside wherever they're holding up, right? What you will tend to see on the inside of most of these structures is, nature has made residence, something I said in the first reaction. But what I noticed in second watch is that the cordyceps also, in their own way, are trying to make residence. Case in point, the last, I don't know if it was living, but one of the infected fireflies gets up and they're like, oh no. And they step on it, its hand touches one of the mycelial network cords, I want to say, and they come running, right? So they're among nature, and nature is trying to make residence everywhere. And the cordyceps are trying to make residence everywhere, competing with one another. If not for the fact that the cordyceps need human beings to feed off of, I want to say, maybe, because it needs fuel, it needs some sort of sustenance, then they would take over as well. It would exist alongside nature. And it's almost as if humans are almost inconsequential. They're all racing for supremacy. They are blending in the environment, the overall nature environment, but their only failing is that they need humans to survive long term, let's say. We go, they go, essentially. It's just interesting to see visually how that is.
That's how it is with most parasites, though. The failing of most parasites is that they do eventually kill their host.
Well, it's the
themselves
same
out.
thing with all zombie media, right? They're after humans, they're furthering their parasite by moving on to another host, and they're feeding in the process. But then eventually you run out of your food source. It goes when we go.
Which we did see in front of the museum when he was whacking at that cordyceps mycelial cord network thing, which is also interesting because, yes, it was caught off at the museum, but it was not caught off at the Capitol building. So you do get to see some world building in this episode too. There's a chance. You're saying there's a chance. And he repeatedly was saying inside the building that bone dry, something to that effect. They're all bone dry. There is a chance that we can survive. It's not completely hopeless, which is what the show is trying to repeatedly remind us with Iburatna and what's out there and how they can be woken up from. People are saying miles away, but I don't know if I would say miles away, but could be miles away. But we're seeing several hundred feet at least.
Well, I think that comes from tests, just saying that up to a mile away they've seen it being connected.
Probably depends on how far the things spread.
Well, and I don't think any of that would have been as fresh if it hadn't been for the fact that people were trying to get into the QZ and they just kept coming. That's
Right.
part of the problem. It probably would be pretty dead in that area. They said that the bombing took care of most of that city, but people coming in trying to get to the QZ over and over again, that's what's causing there to be cordyceps all over the place.
And isn't it like humans too, acting like the mycelial network? They're just trying to get to where it needs to get food, and they couldn't help themselves.
I liked going into the history museum because it just proved that in the current circumstances, our history is nothing. Someday, maybe archaeologists will find the remains of the museum and they'll be able to piece things together. But in the current state that our people are in, history is inconsequential.
And we try so hard to protect it
You
historically.
can't even learn from that history. How do you, because we've never had this kind of history before.
Yeah.
So how do we even learn from history here? There's nothing there for us.
Well, on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we try to preserve so much while things are good. When things are bad, it's like, okay, fuck it.
Yeah, I
We don't
mean,
need
think
it.
of times of war, right? There are people who do try to protect all of that, but somehow it always ends up falling to the wayside because art gets
Get the
stolen.
artifacts away from the
And
windows.
then
Oh, thanks, Strand.
things end up getting destroyed, and then all of that is gone. And that's
Right.
happened time and time and time again in our own history. It just kind of makes sense that yet again, of course, it would fall to the wayside. There's no people there to preserve it.
Well, and then of course, there has been the case where we've done things traditionally that we don't know why we're doing them or culturally. And it turns out it's a historical thing to ward off an illness or the washing of hands. We eventually learned it's proper hygiene prevents illness, and we just keep doing it. And I know eventually people forget why they do what they do half the time. But there are things that we learn as a culture or as a species that root itself into history, and we learn about it like, oh, why did we do that? Oh, it's because of this. History can save people. We just need to preserve as much of it as possible in order to draw from that history. I don't know if we're going to get that in the series, though. Maybe ancient Chinese warded off a predatory fungus, 3000 BC, and that's how they beat the cordyceps. Series over. Anyway, sorry.
That's why they really built the Great Wall.
Right, just to not, right. Meanwhile, they just went underground like the Mongols. They went over the wall and they kind of went through the wall. Anyway, I did like the SARS signs in the research facility.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting just because of COVID.
Well, more to the point, that's what was just before what we were going to figure out under Obama. 5 years later, in 08, 07, 06, it started in Asia and came. We were so afraid of it coming here, and then finally got here. And some people got sick, but it wasn't that bad necessarily, and the transmission wasn't that bad. But in looking at that sign, I do remember SARS. And let's say we're in 2003. The one thing I wanted to keep dropping a pin on are a couple of things. One, 2 years prior to that, we had 9/11. We had terrorism. Eventually, we had the Iraq War. I don't know if it was right away, but we also had we definitely invaded Afghanistan between 2001 and 2003. Wasn't it Joel that was a Desert Storm veteran, if I'm not mistaken? Or maybe he was part of the whole Iraq or Afghanistan war?
I thought so, yeah.
I think it was Desert Storm, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's sort of also important too, that there's some combat involved. We were recently in wars, and this pandemic happens right in the beginning stages where things are getting crazy. So I thought that
I remember SARS. I remember SARS, but the reason it made me think of COVID is because COVID-19 is caused by a virus called SARS-CoV-2. That's why it made me think of it, because I was like, oh, that's like a very topical reference. It's a reference to, yes, around that time period, but also
it's a
to
variation.
something that just happened.
Maybe it's coviceps instead of cordyceps.
It's a great note to leave off on. But I don't know. Do you think maybe the show's trying to tell us that it could have been worse than what we had?
Oh,
Could always be worse.
Yeah, it can always be worse.
But it could be better.
But it could be better.
Pedro Pascal was in that, remember?
Yeah.
Also, yes, Paolo Lazaro from The Walking Dead. But yes, it could be better. Wonder Woman 84.
Well, that's... No.
It's the best line in the movie. Or repeated line.
He's always going to be Oberyn Martell.
He's so many things though now.
Always going to be Oberyn.
It's like the season of Pedro Pascal though.
That guy's all over the place.
He's got a good start, but his stride is not. He's only getting started. If you like what you've heard, head over to ratethispodcast.com/SQUAWKING DEAD. 5 stars and an eggplant is all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. And if you have other thoughts on these episodes, leave them in your rating. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what you don't like. And hey, join us on our next episode breakdown or our live stream discussing our first watch and our second watch by at least following us on either ko-fi.com/SQUAWKINGDEAD or patreon.com/SQUAWKINGDEAD. You don't have to buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com, and you don't have to join a membership tier. All you need to do is follow. It's free. To attend the audience is free. We just don't post our schedules, our recording schedules on social media. But if you do decide to tip us, you'll have 30 days of access to our supporter back content on ko-fi.com. Or if you decide to join a membership tier on either Patreon or Ko-fi, you'll get access to not only the recording schedules, which you can get for free anyway, but you can actually also get the unedited episode recordings. You can get a whole bunch of perks. You can join our Discord server at any tier level and a whole bunch of other perks. Folks, 50% off in the merch store and the ability to join us right here among us during these full episode breakdowns if you join the Survivors tier. I've been your host, David Cameo. And I was joined by Cosmob09, Rachel Burt, Shirley, aka Blazy Gardner, and Bridget. ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster. That's PUNKYBRUASETER. We were talking about this before we started recording. We may actually go live on Second Watch to kind of see if you guys thought of other things on Second Watch as well as us, to get more of like a public feel and public discussion. After hearing more about this episode, after reading articles, after watching any more behind the scenes on these episodes. So stay tuned. Remember to like and share this video. If you're on the video platform, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember to enable all notifications so that you know anytime anything we drop is going to be in face, like an ear face. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon. And hopefully you'll be there for both our first and second watches of The Last of Us. Sounds almost like a goat. That's a bit more like it. Anyway, take care. See you guys.
Well, she sounds
Bye.
like David Matthews.